Hello, welcome to another episode of the Housing Sector Podcast. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce our guest today. It has come to my attention through some of my lovely listeners, my lovely watchers, viewers, whatever we want to call them, that where I have captions across the bottom of the screen, where they use the closed captions so they can get the subtitles of what I'm saying, that's over covering some of the captions. Look, I appreciate that feedback and I love them dearly. They're such a lovely couple. They're not a couple, though, but I'm getting off track here. So look, I will change the format so we can get the text somewhere else, and so those captions are, because it's important that everyone gets a chance to read these podcasts. Fortunately, not on this one, so please forgive me on that one. Okay, look, enough rambling. Violet Barling is here with me today, and we are going to talk about hoarding. Hello, Violet. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Good afternoon, Matt. You're not Matt, are you? You're
No,
Ben.
I'm
Sorry.
Ben.
Sorry.
That's
How
all
are you
right.
today?
I'm very well. Look, hoarding is something that I know very little of, and I suspect I could be guilty of it myself. I have a love for pop culture, and become very obsessed on something like Planet of the Apes or The Evil Dead, and I collect loads of this stuff. But then I get to a point where I go, "What is all this crap doing in my house? Let's get rid of it." And I go through eBay and car boot sales. In fact, during lockdown, I sold hundreds of DVDs during lockdown. I would on eBay. What's the difference between someone who collects stuff and then gets rid of it and a hoarder?
So, I mean, the main difference is you may have, if it's not beautifully organized, it could be just construed as chronic disorganization. A collection is a collection, and a lot of us, collect items. I've got some lovely items. I've got all my great grandmother's hair pieces, sort of stuff, but it's all very neatly packed away. So that is, it's not chronically disorganized and it's not hoarded because I haven't got loads of it. Hoarding is where people collect things for the sake of collecting, and they collect more and more, but they don't have really the space in place to keep the items, or they become so disorganized with it they then don't know where to go. And some people's hoarding is just about acquiring, so they're not really collecting any one thing, they're collecting everything.
So newspapers, cardboard boxes, you know,
Very common. Yeah.
cables are
Yeah.
a big one for me. I can, and I it happens every time. As soon as I get rid of a load of cables, I then need that one cable that was in that box full of cables that I got rid of.
Of course.
So where do we draw the line when it starts impacting on people's lives? How is hoarding impacting on people's lives?
So hoarding will impact on a person's life. It will mean that there are spaces in their home, and perhaps the whole home, that is completely unusable for a home. So there's not a seat that they can sit on comfortably, or there just might be one. But anybody who comes in to visit them, anybody else who's in the home, doesn't have a seat, or that they, without shuffling everything to one side every night, they can't get into their bed. I
Mm,
can't use that space. A common thing that we see is kitchens that you couldn't, there's not even a space to make a sandwich in a safe and sanitary way. They might not have access to their microwave because there is stuff all over it and all around it, which also creates that, fire risk
yeah, yeah.
is a common thing. Just boxes stacked up everywhere, things on stairs stacked all the way up, which makes that very, very dangerous. You know, hoarding is more often sort of brought to the fore because it becomes a dangerous living environment, not just in sort of health wise, but also in the safety of things. So they could have lots of cables strewn all over the place, as we were just talking about cables. So they've got lots of extension leads which aren't all plugged in safely, and then they've got a million things plugged into each of those extension cables, which again is a fire risk. And they get to the stage where they're too embarrassed to have people come around to repair things that are damaged in the homes. So it could be that something goes wrong with the plumbing and we can't flush our toilet anymore. Well, we're too embarrassed to bring someone in to mend that. So we find a way of living in that condition, which is very, very, unhappy for them as
Are you able to support people through a process of unhoarding, dehoarding?
Yes, you can. The person, you have to look at that person as an individual. I know that a lot of sort of housing associations and children of people affected by hoarding is all, oh, we'll just get a skip and we'll throw the whole lot out and da, 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 da. Hoarding is a trauma response. Often it is connected to a traumatic event in life that happened, and it's a barrier. It's a barrier against the world. And if you take that away in one fell swoop, that person is put in a very, very mentally fragile environment, a scary environment to them. And so we have to deal with each person as a unique individual. They're not a number. They are a different person. And there are many things that we can do to help. But the most important thing is to build that relationship with that person, get to know that person so that we can then tailor make their therapy to suit that person's individual personality.
So what is the start of that process? To sort of sit down in their home, or are they brought to somewhere else externally to have that chat?
So quite often, obviously, they will have an embarrassment about having you, first of all, in their home. So a lot of the first sessions that I do happen just like we are now over a meeting on Zoom. They can blur their background, just like that you see that I have here on mine, so that they can freely talk to me, build a relationship with me and get to know me. We don't talk about their condition. First of all, I get to know them as a person. I want to know you as a person. What makes you tick? How you feel? And then we might go on to some hypnotherapy, just to move that sort of traumatic thing, relax you into it. And I don't talk about how they're living or what they're doing for at least 7 weeks. I
Right.
build that relationship with them first, because then they are much more open to really wanting to tell me the reasons, what's going on, what's behind the stuff. Because it's never about the stuff, it's about the person and what's going on inside. And then when you've dealt with what's inside, that's when we can deal with what we can see on the outside, the stuff.
And what would the sort of you follow then? Would you sort of slowly remove items? Should we perhaps get rid of the newspapers today and the cardboard
Yeah.
boxes the following week?
Yeah, so I'll then go into the person's home, because they will then have built a relationship of trust with me. They can trust me to enter into their home, that I am non-judgmental. I'm not looking and thinking, oh my, because that's not the right thing to do. And then we can talk about what they would like to do. So some people might like to just deal with a particular area of a room first, going into someone's home who is chronically hoarding and saying, oh yeah, well, right, we're going to do this whole room. It's not going to work. We need to deal with an area at a time. And some people might say, oh, well, first of all, could we remove all the rubbish? Of course we can. So we'll go around the rooms and we'll collect rubbish. Now, on some days when you get there, they're raring to go and they're really up for it and they can't wait to do that. And we can fill a carload. Absolutely no problem at all. Other days you might go and they're not feeling so great, and we might only manage a carrier bag full that day. But we will have done some work therapeutically with them. So that visit won't have been for nothing. We will still have gained for them in the mental capacity,
Yeah.
helping them emotionally cope with things, finding out, what's been going on, what's brought us to the point today where we're not feeling so good, and is there anything else that we can do, perhaps signpost them onto something else where they can get some extra help for that particular thing that might have arisen for them this week. It's a slow steps approach. You are not going to go into a chronically hoarded home and have it cleared out within a week unless that person is deceased. It's
Right.
not going to happen. We
So is there a tipping point in the process where they start to see the benefits? Actually, I really like this corner of the room now it's cleared out, and then it sort of catches and they want more and more done so they can reap the benefits.
Yes, as they're growing in their own ego, if you like, they are dealing with their emotional issues, etc. They become that, yeah, you've done, so you'll have done something great with them the week before, and you'll have cleared a corner of a room, and they will absolutely love that. And so when you go away, I always leave them some tasking to do. Get some, there's some other little bits and pieces that they can do. And sometimes you'll find that they've done that and then some.
Mm.
Other times they might have only managed to do what you asked them to do. And sometimes they won't have even managed that because it will have frightened them to some degree, what they're, just the thought of that. So it's so about the person and how that person is feeling in any particular moment. Like the best of us, they have good days and bad days. We have good days and bad days.
Does it tend to? Is there a way of categorizing saying it's mostly men in their 50s, or it's mostly women menopausal, or it's mostly elderly people? Is there a category that you can assign to them?
There isn't a category. They say that 5% of the population are known to have hoarding disorder. They reckon it could be as high as 10 to 15% of the population, because a lot of people that aren't in social housing perhaps might not be flagged up until such time as an ambulance or the
Yeah.
fire brigade need to come to the home. However, a lot of people start this and they might have lived with their parents, might have been hoarders. So it will be a genetically carried on behavior, or they can go completely to the other extreme and live as complete minimalists because of that. But a lot of it, so you begin that accumulation mostly in your 30s. People aren't actually getting help until they're in their 50s.
Right.
And there's a part of me that believes that, that is because as we get older, we don't go to as many weddings, we go to a lot more funerals. Our children are growing up and all of those things. And we suddenly start to see our own immortality. And actually, many of them are very frightened of leaving their children with this stuff to clear and how their children are going to deal with that stuff, because it's very important to them that things are removed in the most ecologically sound way that they can
Mm.
be. That does seem to be a massive thing. They want everything recycled, repurposed, reused. They don't want things going to landfill,
Is that
and
because
that's
they still
important.
associate a value to it?
Yeah, some of them definitely, and some of them because they want to save the planet. They believe that by saving these things from landfill, they're saving the planet. Then don't necessarily look at actually we're turning our home into, an ad hoc landfill of some description, especially if we're keeping things, as you say, like the old newspapers, like the pizza boxes, like, any food wrappings, and we're not putting out, we're not doing our bins every week and we're not doing those sorts of things. So yeah, it's such a complex mental health issue. Hoarding is
Yeah.
so complex.
And it's an obsessive behavior. So could that person have become an alcoholic or abused drug, anything that's obsessive? Is this just how it's channeled in them?
Yeah, that's right. Because it is, some people turn to drink, some people turn to drugs, some people smoke a lot, and some people collect things. And it is how you see your own barriers. So actually they see their hoarding is safer than them drinking themselves into oblivion, as it were.
Mhm.
They are building a wall in a different way.
Yeah. So you have to sort of
And it
convince
is,
them that it actually is a problem. It is
yeah,
like,
it's it again, it is an addiction. Collecting things and acquiring things is an addiction of description. Yeah.
and of course, with now, I get very annoyed. I mean, our television's about 5 years old, and we're already thinking, actually, we need to start thinking about replacing that because things aren't built to last now. When we cleared out my nan's house, she still had an old washing machine or fridge freezer that she'd had years that my mum
Yeah, 20,
remembered as a
20 odd
child.
years plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when things were built to last, and that was a sort of badge of honour that it was built to last. With things now, I mean, our fridge freezer is another one. We had to replace that about 2016. So, are they getting rid of electrical goods as well? Are there televisions stacked up, fridge freezers, and
Could well be, yeah. Or some homes you'll find that the fridge freezer is broken down and they're still it is still in the kitchen, absolutely full of decomposed food, and they might have bought another fridge freezer that they have managed to fit into the hallway instead because they're
so,
actually fighting to deal with what's in there.
God, how do you protect yourself when you're going into this home and there's a chest freezer full of decomposing food?
Hazmat suit, gloves, face mask. It can be very, very, it's not the most pleasant chore in the world, some of those things that you're doing.
Mm.
However, what I will say is when you have done it and when you have changed that person's life and you've, organized to have that fridge freezer and perhaps several other in items, that big bulky items that aren't working, collected, by the council, you're making a difference. You can then put that newer fridge freezer that they've got in the place and they can then use that safely. The same as, once you can get the place into a situation where they are not so embarrassed to have the plumber come round
Mm.
or the person to service that boiler because they haven't had any heating for years because, well, we don't want anybody in the home seeing how we live.
Yeah. What do we get to? I'm going to play devil's advocate here. So I'm a housing association and costs and budgets. At what point do I go, well, look, it's their home. It's kind of up to them. It's not for us to get involved. What's your pushback there?
Okay, so the unfortunate thing with housing associations is, of course, most people, they don't know us personally. It's very unlikely that the housing officer will know us in person. You become a number attached to an address. And that can be very difficult to talk to housing associations and say, you know, they're all for the go in there, big clearance.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily look at how that's going to affect the tenant. And obviously, sometimes the tenancy has become that they're under eviction orders, they must sort this out or you're going to be homeless. And so is all of your items then will be removed and not in a way that you want to. And that is a very, very difficult thing for the housing associations and to have that crossover. So for me, it's really important to work with housing associations, talk to housing associations about how a slow steps approach, which can take 18 months plus, is going to enable the resident to comfortably live and sustain their home at the end of it. Now, we're not expecting them to live in a palatial palace, but if they can make a sandwich, if a workman can come into the property safely, perform their job, and that person can live in their home for it to function as a home, then you're on to a winner. And the person, if you work with that person to sort out how things are going for them and change their narrative, the housing association isn't needing to go in every year when the boiler service comes around and do a big clearance. What they're finding is that the resident is taking accountability and changing themselves, because if we've worked with their mental health state and we've treated them as a real person, not just a number, we are going to get the results that we want from them. Yes, it's going to be slower, but it's going to be effective for years to come. And I think for me, that's important.
I agree, and we do need, as associations have grown. I say this all the time. We've lost that human connection, that the community
Yeah.
led. Do you check up on people? I mean, it must be. Are there people that you go back to 12 months later, and we go, "Oh God, we're here again," and look at it. We've now got stacks of stuff.
So generally what happens is after I have finished working with them, I will go back and visit in 6 months' time, because then you can see, are we sliding back? Are things getting out of control again? And so you can start working with them again, but it'll be a lot easier this time to deal with that.
Yeah,
Another thing that often happens is that we will have I work with other cleaning companies and I bring them in. They might go just once a month to
right.
visit that person. The person usually does have to cut those, suck up that cost, but sometimes we can get them help from the social services or whatever to help do a bit of maintenance. And I am always available. If you have worked with me, you can call me, you can email me, you can message me. I will get back to you. If you are struggling, you're having difficulties, I will get you on a call like this. We'll have a chat. And then I might get back to the housing association and say, I need to go and visit Joe Bloggs again. He's struggling a little bit here. I'd like to go in again and see, how I can help, what I can do, how we can get him back on the straight and narrow, if you like, how we
Yeah,
can get that, what's happened. Because sometimes we can have another traumatic event that happens after I've finished going, and that can send people backwards a little bit. And I want people to be able to, my clients, to reach out to me and let me know when something like that's happened, because they've built a relationship with me, a
yeah.
a friendship of sorts. I'm not just coming in as someone from the housing association. I'm somebody who's there for them, and that means a lot to them.
What's the strangest item that someone has hoarded? So, what's the strange thing they've had lots of?
Oh, I had a lady once who collected plastic bottles of water. And I'm not kidding when I say there were thousands of these bottles of water. And her thing was, water doesn't go off.
Oh, but she's got a point.
However, the plastic bottle that is
Ah,
in does start to decompose and can contaminate the water, and it is not then safe for consumption. Now, she lived in a top floor flat. She had these bottles of water she had put in her loft. The loft roof was absolutely sagging with the weight. And it was very unsafe. That could, imagine if
yeah.
that ceiling had collapsed on her while she was in bed, you know, very, very dangerous. Now, she didn't have a garden. So every time I was going, I was taking my car absolutely full of bottles of water to water my garden with. For sort of, but she felt safe in that because I was using the water to grow the plants, and I
Ah,
was recycling the plastic bottles appropriately.
okay. So she
That
could
was
live with that.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But did
yeah.
it become a case of that you would take out 100 and then the following week she's brought in another 20?
No, no, we did manage to work with her that, accumulating that item wasn't correct. I mean, this poor lady, she did also have socks. I'd never seen so many pairs of socks in my life, really.
Right.
But she would buy a type of sock and she would like those socks, so she would buy 20 packets of those socks. And then she'd find another sock that she liked to buy another 20 packets of those. So we were taking a lot of socks to charities. We gave some socks to, sort of Christmas things, where we collect Christmas stuff for homeless people or whatever. And we were taking these socks and giving them. And she got to the stage where she was really happy to do that because the stuff was going to a purpose.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking it and sticking it in the bin.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, look, we're running out of time. Have you got
Right.
a great story that you could tell, a success story to end on a nice positive note?
that lady was a success story. We got her, she moved into a new bungalow,
Right.
and she was much more able then to deal with her stuff. And she now does live a much happier life in a home that is much more organized for herself, and her little house bunny rabbits are a lot happier able to hop around her carpet, and she is in control of what she does. She still has the odd, a thing where, oh, I've bought 5 pairs of the same leggings that I really liked. However, we're not collecting things that are dangerous to her health and stuff like that. So there was also a massive collection of cigarette lighters. We don't do that now.
Right.
So she's, you know, successfully living in a home that when, and I do go to see her occasionally, and she will happily invite you in and make you a cup of tea, and you can sit on the sofa and you can pet the rabbits and you can talk to her about how she is and what's changing for her. And it's lovely to see that excitement in her face when she's going, I'm having the decorators on, I'm having a new carpet, because she can now see the carpet and the clothes are hung in the wardrobe. And when you see that you've had that effect on somebody, it is really empowering, and it is so positive for them. And
Good.
that's why I love what I do.
Dare I ask how
It's
many rabbits she has?
two.
Two, just two.
Two,
Okay.
just two, just
Because
two.
animals being, that would be a big problem if the obsession was have you had to deal
Oh,
with that?
animal hoarding. Yes, I did want to deal with a lady with a substantial amount of cats, both alive and deceased
Oh
in a
my God.
property. Yeah, it's and at one point it was, oh, that was Fluffy. Oh dear. And we
Mm,
did, obviously, the cats had to be removed from the home, which was very traumatic. And the RSPCA were absolutely fantastic in they would come and take a couple at a time,
right.
slowly downed the numbers, and made sure that those pets were treated for fleas and worms and all of those things. And I think she felt happy in the end that those cats were going to be homed to lovely, lovely homes. And she herself, I think she kept 3 cats, which she was allowed to do under her tenancy. She could have 3. Um, and we obviously have been back and checked on, the health of those cats. I do believe the RSPCA go and visit her once a year and just do a checkup and,
Yeah.
make sure that the cats have had their injections and their treatments and stuff. And so that if there is any change in those circumstances in years to come, it will come to someone's attention long before it's a humongous problem
Yeah.
for her and for, her community.
We got 2 cats here. I love them both. I do love one more than the other. I do. She
Yes, I've got
can't say it, but one loves me and ignores my wife completely. But yeah, 2 is enough. 2 is enough. And the costs of having 2 is enough.
yeah, yeah,
We
pets are
are,
expensive.
yeah, the food bill, and then when they have to go to the vet, oh my God, yeah,
I know, I
yeah,
know.
yeah, and
And
they always manage to find a way that's not covered in the insurance.
oh, of course, well, the insurance company will always manage to find a way under which
Yeah, always.
particular
Violet, it's
problem.
been lovely talking to you. Thank you very much indeed for sharing some of your insights into hoarding. I
You're very
had no
welcome.
idea that it affected so many people
It
and that
does.
it was a trigger. I just want, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great
You're
week. We'll
welcome.
catch up with
And
you next
you.
time. Cheers.
Yes.
Bye
See you
bye.
again soon. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Bye bye.
Bye.